There it is, Nicole. That is the city of Portland. I've never seen that before.
You know, I don't think I've ever seen it.
Really?
It's all new to me. I've never been to
Because
Portland
you're
before.
always here working. You are here like 24 hours a day. I just assume that you live here.
I do,
somewhere.
actually. Yeah, you'd be surprised. There's just like a cot underneath my desk.
And then you just crawl under the cot at a certain point, like 11 p.m., time to go to sleep. And
Exactly.
Then, yep,
I've never actually been outdoors in Portland.
It makes sense. Well, we've solved that problem. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. This is our daily live show here from Digital Trends, where we talk about trending tech topics. We bring you news, interviews, all kinds of different things, all while broadcasting live on Twitch, Periscope, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, and Dailymotion. A lot of places that you are finding us right now. And since we are live, we can take your comments and questions. So hop into one of those chat platforms and let us know what you want to talk about if you do have questions. I see some first-time viewers who are joining us. Hello, welcome. Let me run down the docket of what we're going to talk about today. So it is an action-packed show. And I know I say that about a lot of our shows, but seriously, we've got some really fun topics to cover. Coming up in a little bit, we're going to be joined by Dr. Paulo Pinheiro, who is the CEO of HOOBOX Robotics, which I just love the name HOOBOX. That sounds pretty awesome. So they are going to be talking, though, about some really groundbreaking technology. They've teamed up with Intel to help revolutionize wheelchairs for people who need to use wheelchairs, for different ways to control them using facial motions. So it's a really, really interesting technology, and so we're going to be discussing that here coming up a little bit. We've got Cory Rellas, the CEO and co-founder of Drizly. Drizly is an app where you can order booze. That is the simplest way I can put it. You order booze, booze gets delivered to you. It's a little bit more complicated than that. We're going to talk to Cory Rellas of Drizly in a little bit. We've got Ryan Juanitas, one of our editors here at Digital Trends, who's going to be talking about an article he posted about Netflix in particular, but also, is this the end of the golden age of streaming television? There is so much in the news about streaming television right now that we are going to be covering that as well, all right here in our studio in Portland, Oregon. I'm Greg Nibbler, here with Nicole Rainey.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
Good. I want everybody at home now just to picture, of course, you know, that you do live here at the studio.
Yes, exactly.
And that you never leave.
And just like the hidden troll, I'm just always there.
Always there, typing away, always working on articles. Nicole is the managing editor of The Manual, the brother company to Digital Trends, a wonderful publication, and you do some amazing work with them.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So,
shameless plug.
Yep. Well, yeah, I mean, I have to. It's themanual.com, so make sure you check that out as well. All right, so we've got a lot of news to get to. We've got our Read 'em and Weep segment coming up. But let's go to a news story right now, because I did just bring up Netflix. And normally this kind of thing wouldn't be a trending tech headline, but this morning it's everywhere. And because an earnings review meeting, generally speaking, is pretty boring. I'm going to say from a tech standpoint. It's more of a business thing, but what's been happening this week is Netflix is really in the news quite a bit. And this has to do with Netflix's earnings review and some comments made by their CEO, Reed Hastings, and Chief Content Officer, Ted Sarandos. And so Netflix, earlier this week, I'm sure we all saw that they're planning on raising the prices. Which, how do you feel about that?
It's kind of one of those things, like on principle, I want to be mad about it, but it is also, it was like $2.
Yeah.
So I feel like I can't be that upset about it.
Right, and no, but it's, I think people just, the idea of it, because they did a poll, and I believe it was 8% of Netflix users said they're going to cancel over the dollar raise. And yeah, it is only $1 really when you think about it, but I think it's just the idea that, well, I'm already paying for this, why would I pay more?
Exactly. But the idea is that we're going to get more original content, and what we talk about most of the time right now is Netflix's original content. You know? And all the headlines that they make with their new movies and series and things like that. So
yeah, which is a lot. They've invested a lot of money in new content. I think it was $8 billion last year in original content, something along those lines. And so what they said, though, is this shot that they gave today is, I thought it was a pretty good trolling. So the CEO of Netflix, Reed Hastings, gave a speech about it, talking about where they see their competition going forward, you know, with all of these other streaming services that are popping up. And they said they see their big competition as things like Fortnite. Fortnite is where they view their competition, not other streaming services.
So more so than Hulu, more so than HBO, more so than Amazon Prime, Fortnite is the one to worry about.
Because they're looking at it as somebody taking away their entertainment time. So they look at people have so much entertainment time, and Fortnite is taking away their Netflix time.
And supposedly the justification for this was the fact that when there was a brief YouTube outage, Netflix saw a spike in viewership. So supposedly everybody who was watching Fortnite content on YouTube like didn't know what to do and were so desperate for entertainment that they ran over to Netflix.
Yeah.
Which I think is such a fascinating idea.
It is.
Especially considering, I mean, tons of people played Fortnite, right? But the demographic is still largely young.
Yeah.
Like 18 to 24-year-olds, and that's not even counting like how many kids, you know, under 18 actually play.
Right. And yeah, so it is kind of interesting. They view that as their competition. The other thing that they said too, they shot at HBO and Disney because they brought up because Disney Plus is the new streaming service that's going to be launching, and of course HBO has theirs. They called them only marginal competitors.
Wow.
So they're like, we don't really look at them as competitors because, to paraphrase it, basically we're big enough that they're, you know, that's neat. They have a streaming service too. And I guess there is a little bit of a history to that too, because at one point somebody from HBO referred to Netflix as the Albanian army, meaning they're not afraid of them, I guess. I know it's a weird phrasing, but it was supposed to be a dig at Netflix. So I think Netflix is kind of coming back up with some stuff now. I'm seeing some comments come through here. And again, since we are broadcasting live, we can take your comments and questions. Keelan said, I'm just annoyed that I know I'm subsidizing Friends, and I don't even like that show. Yeah. They did pay a lot of $100 million for Friends, so maybe that's where the extra dollar is going?
Yeah.
Could be it. Glenn says, SNL ad, Netflix. We make thousands of movies, only 10 or 15 you want to watch. That's right, there was an SNL great thing on that. So we're going to get into some more, talking about Netflix here in a little bit, in the golden age of streaming with Ryan Juanita's article. So store up your comments and questions about that. We'll be back in about 20 minutes with that side of things, and we'll dig into that some more. Let's go into some Read 'em and Weep.
My favorite.
Read 'em and Weep, where we take a look at the comments that come through across platforms, because yes, we here at Digital Trends do read them, and we respond live to them here on the air. Sometimes they're great, sometimes, okay, so, all right. Scott Christopher, regarding this Silicon Valley studio rents for $1,500 per month for 2 cats. And that is a true story. There is somebody who has so much money that they rented an apartment just for 2 cats. Where do I sign up to be their personal butler? Seriously.
Yeah, I'm hiring. I'll be their cook.
Man, yeah.
I would be open to be hired. Sorry, I'm not actually hiring.
Yeah, you're not hiring for renting a place for your cats?
No.
Yeah, that is ridiculous. So that's the kind of stuff that I think just gets everybody mad instantly. I mean, I'm sorry, for 2 cats, $1,500 a month?
We should come up with a list of all the other things that they might need too, like butler, cook, maid, things like that.
Yeah,
like put together a joint resume to send to the owners.
That's true. You could house a good 10-person staff.
Yeah, there you go.
Rotating through. Yeah, I think that's
be like a small business.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll have to get a hold of them and talk about that if they have that excess money. Let's work on that. All right. Thank you, Scott. That was his comment there. All right. Nuria, regarding Digital Trends Live, Russian companies looking to put billboards in space. So we talked about this, I believe it was yesterday, on Digital Trends Live. And what this is referring to is a Russian company is looking to do just that. They're looking to launch a bunch of satellites that they can switch into formations and reflect light back onto Earth in the form of advertisements. And their demo was one of like a McDonald's logo floating over Paris, and like a KFC logo at the Aurora Borealis, which is exactly where you want to see that. It's a terrible idea, but they think they're going to be able to do this within, I believe it was a couple of years. We'll have to double check the article, but soon, where they said they think they can do this. So Nuria, no, it's basically establishing ownership of space by marketing, commercial business, or whatever. Accountability, Space Force. Hashtag Space Force. Take down the satellites. Yeah, I do think it's pretty ridiculous. I don't know though how the ruling would work on that. Like, who can stop?
I mean, there's tons of satellites in our orbit already. So yeah, I really don't know what would stop. There isn't a Space Force.
Like, how would? Yeah, I mean,
there isn't like a global ruling committee on like what is appropriate for advertising in space.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, and it's so many different independent companies are launching satellites. And beyond, more stuff than that. I mean, yeah, I don't know how you stop it.
I don't think you do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hashtags in that tweet, but I'm going to have to agree.
I think you just have to get on top of it and make sure so it's Digital Trends Live. That's what we do. So we'll work on that.
In that case, that's good advertising.
That's what you want to see when you're looking at the Eiffel Tower. All right. Bo and I'm not even going to try it. beep, regarding this suitcase aims to be your shadow. Sir, is this your luggage? No, it's just following me. That's actually something I believe this was at CES, where, yeah, the luggage that will follow you around. Would you want to use that?
I mean, I think I like the idea, but I think we've talked about this before, about the idea of like robots roaming around. I would just be terrified that somebody would just pick it up and walk off with it.
Oh,
you know, like the backpack is attached to me, right?
Yeah.
And so just the idea, I would constantly just be like, wait, is it still there? Is it still there? You know, I think the stress would get to me.
Yeah.
But the idea is really cool.
I never thought of it that way. Now that you've said it, now I'm stressed out about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would be constantly worried because if I don't have my hand on it, somebody's going to steal from me.
Exactly.
Yes, they're all trying to steal from you. Everybody's trying to steal from you. All right, that is a good point.
Although I like the idea too, because you remember, you know, like in spy films, there's always some sort of like switch off in a briefcase or something.
Oh.
Like somebody puts one down and that one's got the goods, and he switched it out with a different one.
Yeah.
Like how would that be if everybody was using the luggage that follows you around?
The robot
scoop
luggage.
it out and then, you know, give him a different one.
Ooh, okay, there's a movie. There's a movie idea right there.
We got it.
Netflix, you want more original content. There it is. All right, Paul Renee, regarding this Bell Nexus helicopter at CES is next level. By the looks of it, this is just a fancy movie prop that doesn't possess the ability to fly. It doesn't have the facility to hold the size of battery pod that would be required for it to actually work. All right, well, that is true. The one that they did show at CES, and what they're talking about is it's a giant, essentially it's a gigantic drone helicopter that is going to be used for travel. And they did have a prototype at CES. That one was not a working prototype, according to them. However, they've been making helicopters for, I think it was 80-some years, and they've got the technology pretty worked out. I'm going to guess they're going to be able to figure out the battery size.
So he's not wrong by the looks of it. It wasn't working.
Yeah.
But there should be a working version coming out soon.
Yeah, they're working on the working version. You know, we'll see. You never know with these things if it actually does come to fruition. But it's a pretty fascinating article, and the prototype was impressive. I went and saw it. I mean, it's huge. So it looks like about what it's going to look like. But yeah, yeah. All right, Paul. On a technicality. You win. You win, read them and weep. All right, let's see. How many more do we have here? Going through our read them and weep comments live on Digital Trends Live. That's 2 lives. Boom Boom Palmby. Regarding cord cutting has grown by 48% in 8 years. Should big cable be worried? Yes. No hardware costs, no price hikes after 1 to 2 years, no extra regional sports fees. Listed cable prices, never the total price, too much fine print. I agree with you on some of that. However, the price hikes, I think we already proved wrong. The price hikes do happen. The regional sports fee part, that I'm not entirely sure on that.
Well, I think what he's getting at here is a lot of times you have to pay extra for different sports packages and things like that. So I think even if you're streaming, though,
I think don't you have to pay? Yeah, you have to pay a little bit more, don't you?
Yeah, I think you do. Like depending on what service you use or what you know, like if you're going through ESPN or CBS or something like that. Yeah,
and that's kind of me nitpicking his.
Yeah, but I feel like this would be a good thing to bring up with Ryan later when we were talking about the end, or not the end of the golden age of streaming. Like, how does this affect cable?
Good point, and great tease for content coming up later today.
I do what I can.
Ryan Juanita is going to be on here in a little bit. All right, I do want to say just a couple of comments that I'm seeing coming through here, and then we're going to move on and talk about some other news. Looking at Andreas, hello from Germany. Hello. How are you doing? We've got some other new people that are coming in here, so thank you very much for joining us here with Digital Trends. And let's go ahead and go to some news. So a couple of other news stories that we've got. This one is definitely trending today. It has to do with yet another data breach. Yet another one. And actually, this one is a data breach, but also it's a site that was discovered that has the compilation of a whole bunch of data breaches. So it's a mega data breach. And it was discovered by by a guy named Troy Hunt, who has a website called Have I Been Pwned? And what they did is they assembled all of the different ones that happened and kind of are showcasing what happened. So it's 773 million records were uncovered.
And mine is one of them.
Is it? Did you test?
I did.
Yeah, I tested mine too. So this website, you can go there and actually take a look and see if your email is one of the ones that were revealed. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that your password was also revealed. However, for 21 million people, It does. So there was a lot of passwords on there as well, but only 21 million had their actual passwords matched up, according to the report, which is still a lot. That's 21 million people.
And what I like about Troy's site is, I mean, not only is it easy to use, you just enter in your email account and it lets you know if it was possible that your information was exposed during one of these breaches.
Yeah.
But it also has some tips and things like that to make sure that your passwords are a lot stronger, so that's nice.
Yeah.
And then mine was able to tell me specifically which breach was the one that my password may have been exposed with.
Really?
Buying concert tickets, apparently that was my downfall.
Mine was apparently exposed 7 times.
Oh, I only had 1.
7 times.
You beat me.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I'm entering my email address too many different places.
Did it say places?
Yeah.
It's becoming the biggest company in the world. Not just the biggest media company. It's really becoming huge. Disney owns now 60% of Hulu.
Yeah.
And they make a lot of money, so maybe they will just keep
They
Hulu,
do all right.
keep Hulu going, you know, to entice people to watch their stuff.
Yeah.
But Hulu, I believe, lost $1.5 billion last year, and that's about average for Hulu. It doesn't make money.
Which is weird, because it does have, I mean, I guess they don't have a ton of original programming.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some. I mean,
do have a lot
Handmaid's
of
Tale,
TV.
you know, certainly is a great show.
Yeah.
And there are some original shows on there, but not a lot. But yeah, to be losing that much money with all of those kinds of investors in it.
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a strange world. And I think, you know, maybe you're right. We're at the end of the golden age of streaming.
You know, it was an op-ed. People are very upset about it.
There are a lot of comments, and as we say here on
Maybe
Digital
I'm
Trends
wrong.
Live,
It's just an opinion. But,
for our Read 'em and Weep segment, we always read the comments here, but we do. We're a company. We're not just going to ignore you. We will read the comments.
right.
Sometimes you're mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's some
people are
comments. I know you got one on there, talked about it, but that's, you know, when it comes to an op-ed, people are very fired up one way or another when it comes to their television.
It's true.
Right or wrong, people get worked up about it. Well, you can check out that article, digitaltrends.com. Go there, you know, and take a look and read that. And then also we have Between the Streams, which is our entertainment show, which happens actually later today in just a couple of hours at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. We'll be back on talking about this a little bit more. I think a couple other things that I just wanted to touch on is just kind of the infighting of, do you see any of these streaming services going away sooner than another? Because I'm seeing people say Netflix is going to go under, it's not going to last that long, like it's going to collapse.
Netflix is not going to collapse, and they're even looking towards profitability in the next few years as far as you know, bring in more money, having more money, you know, than they put out.
Yeah.
I don't think Netflix is going anywhere. I think Disney Plus is going to be an interesting one because I don't think it's going to have as much content as people think it will. So I don't know how long people are going to subscribe. They're also going to come in, we think, well below Netflix's pricing, which is one of the reasons Netflix raised its price ahead of Disney Plus.
Because you have to do it now.
It's harder to do it when there's more competition, so it's a good time.
They're less, but we're going to...
Yeah, and so then...
I don't know why that voice is the voice. That's my Netflix voice.
Yeah, we think Disney Plus is going to come in low, but I don't know how... I think people are going to come in for shows like Mandalorian and the Loki TV show, but we don't know how long-term that's going to be. And again, Disney also owns Hulu, so we don't know what they're going to do with Hulu. They own a majority stake in Hulu, so... the Disney thing is going to be interesting. I don't see Disney's streaming service going down. Will AT&T's new streaming service do well? I don't know. It's a 3-tiered service. It has DC properties, Warner properties, but
and then there's DC Universe too. That's a whole other.
Right, and then AT&T also has DirecTV Now, which is their live TV streaming service.
God, I've already lost track. Like there's so many streaming services.
Yeah.
One more comment here, and then I know we're going to be going to a break here in a minute because we've got another great interview coming up with the CEO of Drizly. Keelan just said, if you're going to do marginal programming, do that, but quit making us pay for reheated leftovers. Okay, original programming, excuse me. I misread that. Yeah, and I get that. So then that's referencing back for paying for Friends, for shows like that. Like you're going to increase it.
Well, somebody's got to.
Somebody's got to pay for that. Yeah. Friends got to get their money because they certainly don't have enough.
I think that I read somewhere that Friends is like one of the biggest streaming shows in the UK recently. I don't know if
just
that's
discovering
still
it or
true.
something.
Yeah, they're like just getting Friends.
Hey.
Hey,
seen this Joey
Ross
guy?
and Rachel, I wonder what's going to happen.
Well,
Those two kids, I hope they make it.
They just circle it around. A different part of the globe gets it every year.
That's right.
God, it's got to be good to be one of those Friends cast members. Man.
So much money.
Even a bit
for doing
part.
nothing.
Even if you had like a 2-episode run, you know.
See, I don't know if those
season.
guys make money, but I know that the main cast make like $25 million a year still on Friends.
No, they should still get a
Do they still get a cut? I guess they get
SAG,
residuals.
They should still get a cut. Okay. Yeah, so they just get a check in the mail.
Yeah, not bad. That Gunther guy, is he like still making coin?
Probably just made 20 grand, you know? I mean, it's a pretty good deal.
That's not bad at all.
Put us in a Friends episode. That's all we're saying.
Yeah, I don't think it works like that.
All right, dang.
It's retroactive.
Well, okay. I mean, they can dub us in. Anyway, regardless of the article, you can read it, digitaltrends.com. Check that out. Leave your opinions and your comments. It's a fun thing to debate, and it's going to be interesting to see where it goes from here. And then watch between the streams and listen to the podcast, which is going to be just in a couple of hours live. But you can hit subscribe on that podcast, and we'll be discussing this more in detail and bringing you up to date with a lot of things that are going on in the world of entertainment, which there's a lot that's happened over the last week. So we'll be covering all of that later. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, let's go ahead, and what we're going to do now is take a quick break because we're going to be coming back with another great interview. This is what's so fun about this show. Like I was saying earlier, we talk to all kinds of different people about all kinds of different topics. We've got Cory Rellas, the CEO and co-founder of Drizly, which I have just been checking out the app today. You can order booze and have it delivered. I mean, that's the simplest way I can say it. I'm sure he's got a more eloquent way to describe it that we will be covering here in a minute. I'm excited about it.
For that.
Yeah, I know, right? I saw it. I'm like, this is genius. Why hasn't anybody done this before? So we're going to be talking about that here in just a minute. So stick around live. Give us your comments, your questions. We'll be back in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thanks, everybody, for joining in. As we are live, we can take your comments and questions across all kinds of different platforms, so make sure you drop those in there. And one of the fun things about this show is every day we get to talk to all kinds of different people. We get to cover different news, and we talk to entrepreneurs and CEOs. And if you ever have thought about looking at some kind of an application or a program or a product, and you're like, man, why didn't I think about that? This is one of those for me. It's so smart. And right now we're joined by Cory Rellas, the CEO and co-founder of Drizly. Hello, Cory.
Hello, Greg. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. So before I even say anything, maybe let's have you, if you don't mind, walking through what Drizly is and maybe how you came up with this idea and founded this company.
Sure, and I was listening to you earlier on your broadcast talking about why hasn't this existed prior? And the reality is that we exist in a very regulatory-driven space. So the genius of Drizly was not necessarily in the idea in itself, but more in applying e-commerce to a regulatory-driven industry that, how do you bring a controlled substance online? So really what we do is allow consumers to go online or on our app and shop across their local retailers, accessing a larger selection than they can get in anyone's store, compare pricing, all with the convenience of delivery within 40 to 60 minutes, and we're rolling this out across the country.
So this is, you can go on and it's for, you can shop for beer, wine, spirits, and there's a lot to talk about with it. So I guess to start off, so you said you're rolling it out across the country. So this would be anywhere, like I could go online. I believe you're based in Boston, is that correct?
That's correct, yep.
So I could go online and say there's a local Boston beer that I wouldn't ever get to try out here. I could order that and have that delivered to me here in Portland. Is that how that would work?
No, so it's very state driven. And if you think about laws that were put in place since prohibition was repealed, I'm going way back to the 1930s. It allowed states to dictate how they think about alcohol and bringing that controlled substance now online. So it's local. If you're in Boston, you shop across local retailers. You can get it delivered from those local retailers. And depending on the state, they allow shipping in some states, in-store pickup in other states, but it is a very localized framework, patchwork of regulations that Drizly is solved for.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense because, yeah, I mean, even city to city, sometimes there's different regulations, which I imagine is a really big hurdle to overcome when figuring all of this out. That's a lot of logistics to work on, and I may have some questions actually about that as we go through. Sure. But let's talk about just like an ordinary, like a user experience. So I would go on here in Portland for me, and there'd be a list of different retailers. And now, do I order it from them? And then when does it show up? Somebody will drive it to my house, or do I pick it up? Like, how does that user experience work?
Absolutely. So you're going online, you put in your location, and based on your location, we tell you what retailers you're able to shop from. So you're going to see inventory retailers. You pick out what you like, we recommend a few things, and you build a basket. At the end of the day, that basket is either from one or multiple retailers who are empowered through Drizly technology to bring delivery to you. So it's very much like Uber Eats or Postmates or DoorDash. Once you hit confirm that you want to buy those items from that retailer, they communicate with you using Drizly technology and ultimately bring the product to your door, where they'll check you out with ID verification and make sure you are who you say you are.
How does that ID verification work? So for the delivery side, I guess, since you said it's kind of like Uber or Uber Eats or something like that, so are these individual people that apply to your company to be delivery drivers, or are these directly hired by Drizly?
Yeah, it's a great question. So Drizly is alcohol within the entire supply chain, which is a big reason we are compliant within the alcohol industry. The delivery drivers are usually W-2 employees of the liquor store who carry that license and responsibility of actually selling alcohol. So when they show up on your door, they will scan your ID to make sure you're 21. They'll make sure it is you and matches your credit card. And it's the same legal liabilities if you went into store to purchase your beer, wine, and spirits within a retailer, just done on your premises.
That makes sense, actually, especially from your standpoint from a company, rather than taking that risk of hiring outside people, and that's just because of the regulatory side of it. I mean, that's a tough thing to have to do that. So if you have somebody who's already confirmed within the state or within that municipality, yeah, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
To go through it that way. So let's walk through it a little bit more just as far as the user side of it. So you can order pretty much anything. If there's a company that's working with Drizly, I can go on there and I can order anything from them. Are there hours of delivery that matter, or how does that work?
We work within the framework of a retailer. So if you think about really what we're doing, we're a two-sided marketplace who brings retailers online. We host their inventory. So you see what they have in store. Their inventory, their pricing, their selection allow you to shop across them. And we work within their constraints, and it's usually regulatory driven. When are they open? If they're open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., that's when you'll be able to shop on Drizly. So it's not necessarily a late night option, and that's not who our consumer is. Our consumer is more of the 27 to 35-year-old urban-based, based on where we are right now, social millennial, people looking to have occasion-based drinking with friends and family, usually a little bit of the taste testers and trendsetters who are building a $60, $70 basket. So it's a little different use case than I think most people would imagine from the outside.
That does make sense. You're sitting there like, okay, well, let's get a sampling of this, this, and this, and just have it brought to the house, and we'll try these all out. Or I want to make this specific kind of cocktail, but I need these ingredients. A couple of questions that are coming through. If you don't mind, I've got some happening. I see a couple of people asking the same thing. What is the pricing like on this? How competitive is it? Like, how much of a markup is there? How does that part work?
So no markup on the price of the bottle itself. And in many states, that's regulatory driven to where the price of the bottle in store must be the same price as they list it online. So you have that, and Drizly does not take a fee on the bottle itself. So it's in-store pricing. And then you think about the transparency of price when you shop on Drizly versus going to the local liquor store. I think consumers would be shocked to know that a liquor store a mile apart or even closer together may sell the same product for 10, 20, or 30% different prices. based on a lack of information about what consumers want and how that price is driven. So we're just bringing transparency to that. And really, at the end of the day, you can build a basket on Drizly that is cheaper than going to the local liquor store because you're armed with more information.
Interesting. Okay. And then is there a delivery fee?
Most markets have a $5 delivery fee. It is up to the store itself. So you're going to see stores with no delivery fee, other stores at $5.
Okay, interesting. So the stores dictate what that actually is.
Absolutely. I mean, you should think of us more as a kayak for alcohol to some extent, where we're bringing the technology to enable this industry in a legally compliant way. But the incumbent players are deciding how to compete and how to best serve the consumer at the end of the day. And that's really what we serve to do as a technology player, kind of knocking down the physical barriers of competition.
That's really interesting and a really smart way to go about it. And you guys have been around for a few years figuring this out, correct?
Absolutely. We've been doing this since 2013. We just took some funding to continue to expand what we're doing in our Series C round, and we're at about 105 markets today, 30 states that actually allow e-commerce for alcohol. There's some control states that don't, where the government owns part of the supply chain. And we look to bring this to mass market. Less than 1% of alcohol sold online today, so it's way behind other industries. It's way behind grocery, electronics, apparel. And as we think about the opportunity, we want to build awareness that this is not only existent, that it's legal, but that Drizly can elevate your consumer experience and really be a part of those moments that life's all about, those good times with friends and family, and we can make those better for you.
That's great. Well, and for Drizly, so I guess you kind of covered a little bit of what your future plans are, but so it's expanding to more markets. Do you plan on going to like rural markets or kind of keeping in cities where it's a little bit easier for deliveries?
So it's going to be mostly expansion in where we are, and that's twofold. That's providing a better optimized retailer experience within our current cities, which means more retailers. The more inventory, the more retailers, the better shopping experience for a consumer, and we continue to see that trend today, both in depth of selection, breadth of selection, and then the ability to compare prices has proven huge for us. And then at the same time, there's a whole host of new area that we can go into. So you're really going to see Drizly expand retailer base. We have about 1,100 retailers on the platform today. I think you're going to see that 3x over the next 12 to 18 months and bring this service, which should exist everywhere and really can elevate the consumer experience for folks across the U.S. in a way that hasn't existed prior.
Really cool. And again, where can people go to download the app? Just any app store, or is it better to go online? How do they find you?
Absolutely. So Drizly.com on the web or mobile web, and then we also have an iOS and an Android app, all of which are dependent on where you are. But within the major metros, you should be able to have alcohol delivered to you within 60 minutes today. Wow,
really cool. Well, Cory, thank you so much for coming on here and talking about this. What an exciting, medium to be in, an exciting application. Like you said, only 1% is being delivered right now, so lots of room for growth and a lot of problems that you are solving and working on. And thanks so much for coming on to talk about it.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Greg. Exciting times here, and I'm glad we get to talk to your audience about what we're doing.
Absolutely. So there we go. Cory, CEO of Drizly, right here on Digital Trends Live. And again, everyone, this is what is so fun about this show. So we're live every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. And I want to emphasize that because I know we have some newer listeners or newer viewers who are watching us right now. And I want you to hit subscribe wherever you're watching us because we're on all these different platforms. And the best way to follow up on all the stories we talked about is digitaltrends.com. So everything we've covered today, all those tech headlines that we talked about at the beginning, if you are worried that you are one of the people who are hacked or had their information shown, we've got a guide for that at digitaltrends.com. We had Ryan Juanita on to talk about Netflix. We covered all of that here at digitaltrends.com. You can read that article and check out what he was talking about. Going through the show here, and I'm just looking back over this last hour alone of some of the things that we covered. Dr. Paulo Pinheiro, CEO of HOOBOX Robotics, using their technology to help people who are in wheelchairs and help increase mobility for people with physical disabilities. Very, very cool stuff. And then, talking to Cory right now about Drizly and their application and how they're using technology. We love to talk about tech here. We love to talk about a breadth of different things, and we love to do it live with you and seeing your comments and questions come through here with us. We're going to be off on Monday because it is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, so we won't be here on Monday, but we will be back on Tuesday with a brand new live show for you. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for tuning in with us every day here, and we'll be back on Tuesday with another episode of Digital Trends Live.